What if the next dime you touch could change your life forever? Imagine reaching into an old kitchen drawer, pulling out a handful of loose change, and discovering a tiny silver coin worth $5.5 million. Sounds impossible, right? Most people spend dimes without even looking at them. They toss them into tip jars, vending machines, gas station trays, and forgotten piggy banks every single day. But hidden among ordinary pocket change are a few coins so rare, so mysterious, and so valuable that collectors have spent decades searching for them, and one of the most talked about modern coins is the 1989 D Mint Mark Roosevelt Dime. For years this coin looked completely ordinary, nothing flashy, nothing golden, nothing oversized, just a simple dime struck in Denver and released into circulation with billions of others. Most Americans never paid attention to it, but deep inside the coin collecting world whispers began to spread. Stories surfaced about rare error versions, mysterious strike abnormalities, and nearly impossible condition examples selling for shocking amounts of money. Some collectors laughed, others searched desperately. But a handful of lucky people discovered that certain 1989 D dimes were worth far more than 10 cents. And then came the stories that changed everything. One retired factory worker in Ohio claimed he found a strange 1989 D dime inside a coffee can filled with old coins from the 1990s. He almost spent it at a grocery store until something caught his eye. The surface looked unusually sharp, the details appeared stronger than normal. He took it to a local coin dealer, expecting maybe a few dollars. Instead, the dealer stared silently for nearly a minute before asking where he found it. That tiny coin eventually went to professional grading and shocked everyone with its near-perfect condition combined with rare minting characteristics. Experts estimated its value at hundreds of thousands of dollars, and rumors spread that elite collectors privately offered far more. That single discovery sent collectors across America into a frenzy. Suddenly people were digging through drawers, jars, car consoles, and inherited coin boxes hoping to uncover another hidden treasure. Millions of dimes were searched, but only a tiny number showed the rare features that made the coin so special. Now here is where the mystery deepens. The 1989 D Roosevelt Dime was produced at the Denver Mint during a time of extremely high coin production. Machines operated day and night at incredible speed. Mistakes happened constantly. Most errors were caught and destroyed, but a few escaped into circulation unnoticed. Those escaped coins became legends. One of the most valuable versions is the 1989 D dime with dramatic strike errors or die abnormalities. Collectors search for examples with doubled lettering, especially around the words "Liberty, in God We Trust," and the date itself. Under magnification, the letters may appear slightly doubled or shadowed, creating a strange overlapping effect. These double die varieties are incredibly rare and highly desirable. Another feature to watch for is an off-center strike. When the coin blank shifts during minting, the design becomes crooked, leaving part of the dime blank. Depending on how dramatic the error is, the value can explode. Some off-center 1989 D dimes have sold for thousands, while extreme examples in excellent condition are worth far more. But the true dream coin is the nearly flawless high-grade example. This is where things become unbelievable. Most dimes from 1989 entered circulation immediately. They were scratched, dented, and worn within days. Perfect examples are almost impossible to find. Coins graded mint state 68 or higher are extraordinarily rare because even the tiniest imperfection lowers the grade dramatically. A microscopic scratch, a weak strike, or slight discoloration can destroy the value. Professional coin graders use intense lighting and powerful magnification to inspect every detail. Franklin Roosevelt's hair, the torch on the reverse, the tiny olive branches, and even the shine across the coin surface. A perfect coin appears almost frozen in time, untouched since the moment it left the mint. And when one of these nearly perfect 1989 D dimes appears at auction, collectors go wild. Bidding wars erupt. Wealthy buyers compete aggressively because top population coins almost never surface again. Some experts believe the finest known examples could eventually reach values close to $5.5 million if market demand continues rising, especially if tied to rare mint errors or unique provenance. A dime smaller than your thumbnail, potentially worth more than luxury mansions, exotic cars, and retirement savings combined. That possibility keeps collectors searching every single day. Now let's talk about exactly how you can identify one of these rare coins, because this is the part most people miss. First, look at the date. You need a 1989 dime, then check for the small D mint mark near the date. That D stands for the Denver Mint. No D means it was struck in Philadelphia, and while those can still hold value, the Denver examples are the ones generating the biggest excitement. Next, examine the surface carefully. Use a magnifying glass or your phone camera zoom. Look for doubling in the text, especially Liberty, and in God We Trust. The doubling may appear subtle, like faint shadows behind the letters. Sometimes the date itself shows doubling too. Then inspect the edges and overall strike. Is the design perfectly centered? Does the torch on the reverse appear unusually sharp? Are Roosevelt's facial details crisp and strong? Weakly struck coins are common. Sharp, detailed examples are much harder to find. Pay close attention to the coin's color and shine. Original mint luster creates a glowing cartwheel effect when tilted under light. If the coin still flashes brilliantly after decades, it could indicate an exceptionally preserved specimen. Also watch for unusual errors, clipped planchets, die cracks, broad strikes, or missing clad layers. These minting mistakes transform ordinary coins into collector treasures overnight. One collector from Texas reportedly found a 1989 D dime with a dramatic die crack running across Roosevelt's portrait. He bought the coin unknowingly at a gas station as change for a soda. Years later, he discovered its rarity and sold it for enough money to pay off his mortgage. Stories like that fuel the obsession. Because every collector knows the next unbelievable discovery could happen anywhere. Inside an old coin roll from the bank. Inside your grandfather's toolbox. Inside a forgotten piggy bank. Inside the cup holder of an old truck. The most incredible treasures rarely announce themselves. They hide quietly among ordinary coins, waiting for someone observant enough to notice. And that emotional possibility is what makes coin collecting so powerful. It is not just about money, it is about hope, it is about history, it is about the idea that life-changing discoveries still exist in everyday places. For many Americans, especially those who grew up checking pocket change with their parents' or grandparents' coins, carry memories. They remind people of childhood road trips, corner stores, jukeboxes, and simpler times. That emotional connection makes the hunt deeply personal. And then there is the thrill. The heartbeat that rises when you spot an unusual date. The suspense of turning the coin under light. The possibility that this tiny object could hold unimaginable value. Collectors describe it as addictive because every coin carries mystery. Most people will overlook a rare dime without ever realizing what they had, but educated collectors train themselves to notice tiny details others ignore. That knowledge creates opportunity. And right now, somewhere in America, a rare 1989 D Roosevelt Dime may still be circulating unnoticed, passing from hand to hand, waiting for the right person to stop and look closely. Maybe it sits in a casino tray. Maybe it hides in a bankroll. Maybe it rests inside a forgotten drawer collecting dust for decades. The crazy part is this has happened before multiple valuable coins were discovered. Long after entering circulation, some spent years being used in everyday purchases before collectors recognized their true importance. That means the next discovery is still possible. So tonight, before you ignore that pile of spare change, take another look. Check every 1989 dime, carefully examine the mint mark, study the details, search for errors, search for unusual shine, search for perfection. Because one tiny detail could separate an ordinary 10-cent coin from a multi-million-dollar treasure. And while most people continue spending their coins without thinking, you now know the secret that serious collectors understand. Rare coins are still out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be found by someone patient enough to search. The next time you hear the sound of loose change rattling in your pocket, remember this story. Remember that a simple dime, once dismissed as ordinary, became the center of collector obsession and million-dollar conversations. Most people will never notice these coins. Most people will never look closely enough. But the people who do sometimes change their lives forever. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.
Imagine reaching into an old jar of loose change, pulling out a tiny dime you almost ignored, and discovering it could be worth $5.6 million. Not a rare gold coin locked away in a museum. Not a treasure found at the bottom of the ocean. A simple 1990p Roosevelt dime that may have passed through thousands of hands before landing in yours. Somewhere in America, hidden inside dresser drawers, coin jars, forgotten piggy banks, and dusty collections, one of these tiny silver-colored coins may still be waiting to be discovered. Most people never look twice at dimes. They spend them on coffee, toss them into tip jars, or leave them in cup holders. But experienced collectors know something the average person does not. Sometimes the smallest coins hide the biggest secrets. And the story behind the mysterious 1990p dime is one that has stunned collectors for years. It began quietly. In the early 1990s, coin experts started noticing strange examples of Roosevelt dimes appearing in circulation. At first glance, they looked ordinary. Same size, same portrait, same design. But under magnification, tiny differences started appearing. Strange surfaces, missing details, unusual striking patterns. Some looked almost perfect, while others carried rare minting mistakes that should never have escaped the United States Mint. Collectors became obsessed. Rumors spread across coin shops and collector conventions. People whispered about rare 1990p dimes selling for shocking amounts of money. Some believed a handful of experimental strikes had accidentally entered circulation. Others claimed special error coins had been mixed into regular mint bags during production in Philadelphia. Then came the sales. One rare Roosevelt dime with extraordinary characteristics reportedly stunned private collectors with a value reaching into the millions. Suddenly, people everywhere started searching through spare change. Families opened old coin albums hidden in closets for decades. Retired collectors returned to the hobby. Because if a tiny dime could be worth millions of dollars, nobody wanted to miss their chance. Now here is where the mystery becomes even more fascinating. The 1990p Roosevelt Dime was struck at the Philadelphia Mint. Unlike older Philadelphia coins that carried no mint mark, this coin features a small P mint mark just above the date on the front side. That tiny letter is incredibly important. Without it, the coin becomes something entirely different. The front of the coin shows President Franklin D. Roosevelt facing left. The word liberty appears along the side, while I and God we trust sits beneath Roosevelt's chin. The date 1990 appears near the bottom. And just above the date, you should see the small P mint mark. But collectors searching for the million-dollar version focus on much more than the date and mint mark. They look for errors. And some of these errors are so subtle that most people spend them without realizing what they had. One of the most valuable possibilities is the missing clad layer error. Roosevelt dimes are made from layers of metal bonded together. But during rare minting accidents, part of the outer layer can be missing. When that happens, the coin may appear darker, copper-colored, or unusually thin. These mistakes are incredibly rare and can attract huge interest from collectors. Another important error involves off-center strikes. This happens when the coin blank is not perfectly aligned during minting. Part of the design may be missing, shifted, or cut off. The more dramatic the error, the more valuable the coin can become. Then there are double dies. This is where things become serious for collectors. A double die occurs when the design is accidentally impressed more than once at slightly different angles during the die creation process. On a genuine double die 1990p dime, you may notice doubling in the lettering, numbers, or Roosevelt's features. Sometimes the doubling is visible with the naked eye. Other times, you need magnification and strong lighting. Collectors examine the words Liberty and I and God we trust very carefully. They also inspect the date and mint mark. Any signs of doubling can send excitement through the roof. But there is another reason this dime captures attention. Condition. Condition can transform an ordinary coin into a life-changing discovery. Most dimes enter circulation immediately after leaving the mint. They get scratched, worn, dropped, and damaged over time. But a perfect uncirculated 1990p dime with blazing luster, sharp details, and no wear is extremely difficult to find. Coins graded at the highest mint state levels can command astonishing prices. That is why collectors use grading services like Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Company to authenticate and grade rare coins. A single point difference on the grading scale can mean thousands or even millions of dollars in value. Imagine holding two identical-looking dimes. One is worth 10 cents. The other is worth enough to change an entire family's future forever. Now picture this. An older man in the Midwest decides to clean out his garage after retirement. He finds an old coffee can filled with coins collected over decades. Most are ordinary pocket change. Pennies. Nickels. Quarters. Then he notices a strangely bright 1990p dime. Something about it feels different. He nearly spends it. But instead, curiosity takes over. He examines the coin under a magnifying glass and notices unusual doubling near the lettering. The strike looks incredibly sharp. The surfaces glow almost like polished chrome. Days later, the coin reaches an expert. The room goes silent. The dime is authentic. Stories like this fuel the dreams of collectors across America because they know these discoveries really happen. Rare coins are still being found in circulation. Hidden treasures are still sitting unnoticed in homes, drawers, and jars across the country. And the most exciting part is this. You do not need to be rich to become a treasure hunter. All you need is patience, knowledge, and attention to detail. Start by checking every 1990p dime you can find. Look closely at the mint mark. Study the lettering. Tilt the coin under bright light. Search for unusual shine, strange coloration, doubling, or missing details. Never clean a coin. That mistake destroys value instantly. Even wiping a coin with cloth can leave tiny scratches that reduce collector interest. If you believe you found something special, place it carefully inside a protective holder and have it examined professionally. The world of coin collecting is filled with stories that sound impossible until they become real. Ordinary people have discovered coins worth thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even $1 million simply because they decided to look carefully at their change. That is why collectors never stop searching. Every trip to the grocery store becomes a possibility. Every handful of coins becomes a mystery. Every forgotten collection becomes a potential fortune waiting to be uncovered. And somewhere tonight, someone may unknowingly possess one of these rare dimes without having any idea what it could be worth. Maybe it is sitting inside a kitchen drawer mixed with paperclips and batteries. Maybe it is hidden in a box passed down from grandparents. Maybe it is resting quietly in an old coin album untouched for decades. The truth is that history hides in the smallest places. A tiny piece of metal no bigger than a fingernail can carry a story powerful enough to change lives. That is the magic of coin collecting. It is not only about money. It is about discovery, hope, curiosity, the thrill of uncovering something the rest of the world overlooked. And sometimes, against all odds, that overlooked coin becomes the one everyone wishes they had found first. So tonight, before you ignore that loose change in your pocket, take one more look. Examine every dime carefully. Search for the 1990p mint mark. Watch for errors. Study the details most people never notice. Because the next coin you hold could be the discovery collectors dream about for a lifetime. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.